Well, I just got a comment from somebody. Eliatz's pilot. Anyway, this person formed a question which I took to be in good humor, or a bit of a joke actually, regarding how do I find myself. Now I'm talking to you, all of you actually. This person copied a couple of my paintings, and they said that they turned out very similar to a couple of paintings that I've done, and I'm flattered, genuinely flattered by that. As they say, mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery. Anyway, I replied to that thinking it was a joke and saying, don't emulate me, because don't look to me to find yourself, because trust me, if you're me and you find yourself, you'll be disappointed. Alluding to alluding to what goes on in my brain. You don't want to know that stuff. But it was a serious question, and it was about somebody trying to find their style. And I think this is pretty universal advice, but I'm going to repeat it. It's what I did growing up, what I did when I got into painting. I took a liking to certain people's styles and techniques, and I practiced them, and I copied many different. I never exactly tried to copy anybody or any particular painting exactly, but tried to go in that general direction to see how it fit my glove and how it fit my eye. I just needed to figure these things out, and it took many paintings, many attempts before I even began to settle into what I liked about somebody else's work. Always, even though I would love a specific artist's work, there was always something on a painting that I looked at that was my favorite. For example, would be, okay, I love that, but I think I would do this different, or I think I would do that differently. So those small changes are what help you to develop your own style. Sure, it might look initially a lot like another artist's work, but even if you try, unless you're consciously trying to forge other people's work, which is not creative, it's just technical expertise, you won't be able to help but naturally develop your own style. That's just purely organic. You couldn't stop it if you tried to. So my advice to anybody out there who is just getting into painting, look at images of other people's paintings, as many as you want, as many as you can, and you will narrow the field of that which you're interested in, and do some copying of those techniques. Not necessarily a painting. You can do a painting or 2 or 5 or 20. I don't care, but I would focus on on the look of the painting rather than a painting itself. You'll find your own technique. It'll end up resting in your lap if, number one, you are willing to do the work, and I mean a lot of different paintings. 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, I don't care. If you're willing to go through that procedure, and if you're willing to be patient with yourself, because it will come eventually, don't be arrogant enough to think that you can do a few shots at something and you'll settle into your style. You won't. Be humble enough to give it time. Be humble enough to copy all kinds of different artists. It's part of the training, and with most artists, they're not, the fullness of their abilities are not a result of a particular college or workshop or this or that. They're the accumulation, the culmination of life experiences. The importance of recognizing observation when you're in my case, nature. The ability to draw, practice drawing, I have heard this comment, well, people have told me this. Certain people have said, well, yeah, I only paint abstract. Well, okay. They say I only paint abstract. I hear, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to compose. I think my hearing is better than their talking. Anyway, yeah, I encourage you to do that. Sorry I didn't mean to be glib about it, because I know it is important. It was important to me too when I was beginning painting. What do I like? What don't I like? What will I try to emulate? What general feel do I want to my canvases? And now it's been decades later, and I've kind of settled into it. I do pick on a few different techniques and a few different looks, which is great. You can, you don't have to feel confined if, oh, well, the way I do it this way, the way I personally work a technique and a subject matter on a canvas or a panel or what have you, was really successful, so I'll stick to that. Don't be afraid to push the edges a little bit, explore a little bit, because if you do that, you'll learn other variations of a similar technique, or you might move to an entirely different medium for all that goes. And the more of that you do, the more willing you are to be to educate yourself, and that's what it comes down to. Sure, there's a lot of good instruction out there, but the bulk of the work comes from self-discipline. And if you have a joy for your subject and a joy for painting, excuse me, or whatever medium you work in, if you have a joy for that to begin with, you'll go far. Anyway, that's a lot of blithering. I think what I'm going to do, I think I might just, the sky's not that big here, I might just put something in there a minute. Let me just see here. Excuse me, it's very studyish in its nature. Yeah, okay, here, let me do that. Yeah, all right. I used a much smaller brush to put my lines in. I want this painting to be a little more lively, a little more coarse in a way. But on my palette, do I have what I want? I don't quite think so. A bit of raw umber, that might do the job. I do want some yellow ochre. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of cobalt blue here. Just a bit of, oh yeah, yellow ochre, already said that. I had some raw umber on my palette, I just thought I'd add a little bit more. We're coming into Saturday night, so I don't want to load my palette with all kinds of stuff and just have it sit in the open air during Sunday. Alright, we'll get into the titanium white here. A little bit of cobalt, or no, a little bit of yellow ochre. Warm up that white. Okay, raw umber, cobalt blue, going grayish. Okay. Now that I have it on my brush, and I can hold it up to the canvas, I'm going to mix more of it because I've just gotten a little more confident about that color. Alright, we're not going to put 1,000 strokes in this sky. This is another one of those canvases, it's a little more aggressive than I like. And yeah, the brush I'm using is pretty good size. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, we're going to go more towards the gray, so we will leave now the yellow ochre out of it, and we'll just go to raw umber and cobalt blue. See that? See how much the warp and weft shows through when you have an aggressive canvas like that? I like it, but this is maybe a little more than I prefer. I could use a stiffer brush, but if I do that, then I lose some of the control of being able to cut cleanly against some of my shapes, so I'll just avoid it. Okay, I'm going to be kind of generous with the paint here. Let's dip into the ultramarine blue now for a moment. And raw umber. I know this seems so intense right now because we're working against a dark canvas. So everything adjacent to my colors at the moment is very dark, and that makes what I'm doing right now pop. It's not going to stay that way. Popping is fine, but you need a balance of popping and maturity. I'm going to add a little bit of just a hint of alizarin crimson to this. Okay, now with the alizarin crimson, I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue. I don't want my sky to be too violent, but I don't want it to be boring either. That might be a little too purple for me. I'm going to bring in a little more raw umber. Maybe I should have added some linseed oil to my strokes here just to calm them down, but I'm not going to worry about it now. You know, in a case like this, sometimes a flat brush or a round brush is nice to use too. You know, look at how flat that is. You know, it's a flat brush. A flat brush is a wonderful thing, but it's very skinny. It cannot contain as much paint as a round brush of similar size. You know, this is a number 8. If I have a number 8 round, that brush can hold a lot more paint, and and because the bristles are sort of more tightly packed and thicker all around, you don't suffer from the brush not having enough strength to dump the paint on the canvas, because the brush just really wants to bend over then, like you're seeing now. It's not an issue with not an issue so much with the round brush. Darn, I think I went a little too light on that. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. Just not going to do that. Again, sitting, you know, what, 20 inches away from it is not a good or an accurate way of gauging it, because the viewer, the final user of the end product, so to speak, I know that doesn't sound very artsy, but there's truth to it, is with the exception of wanting to go, ooh, how did he do that? With the exception of that, the viewer will be looking at this from a little more distance. And I have to bear that in mind when I'm painting these things. As do you. Okay, that warp and weft is disappearing now because I need to keep going over things. Okay. I'm gonna just remove most of the color from this brush. I'm gonna go back in and over some of this. Try to strengthen it. It's gotten kind of weak because I've had to go over the same spot a few times with the same bristles. I don't like that effect at all. But you know what? I'm going to dip into a little bit of Linseed oil. Okay. White. Yellow ochre. Bit of raw umber. I'm having a bit of an issue here because I didn't want this blob, which is very central over this, to just be suspended here. I wanted to lay it in and spread it out a little bit, and that's why I'm climbing the mountainside on the right a little bit with it. And a hint on that side, okay. It's so easy to do this. You know, your brush is perpendicular to your painting. You cannot lay paint on when you do that. Then you're truly brushing it on. Now, that's okay if you want to fill all the holes. But it kills your mixture, it kills your brush stroke. If you use your brush like this, so to bring it fairly parallel to your canvas itself, then you can lay it on. Then you're not brushing the paint on, then you're applying it. And that's really what you want to be doing, is applying it. Okay, that's good down there. Okay, that mauve that I have sitting up top. All right, that's probably approximately in the right direction. There. Let's give it a bit of warmth. I don't mind that I'm sweeping the sky off to the right hand side, right across the entire sky. Because this does this. Down here, it does this. Alright, I am not sure I should do much more playing on this, except for maybe adding a bit of white. I don't like that. But really the only thing I don't like about it is because I'm looking forward into the rest of the painting, there will likely be more of this tint showing through in other areas of the painting. The sky, I don't want it to be so, I don't want it to be too strong. I don't want those contrasts in there. Okay. Now it's a little more tender. Let me zoom in a second. Not a second. Let me zoom in briefly and show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, variety of color, varieties of stroke shapes, but not allowing too much of that tint to show through. Actually, pretty much nothing. That will happen as we get closer to the foreground. Okay guys, talk to you soon.